Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda, and I tried to do a reading vlog of my NPR books, and I got sick. So, normally the way I do the reviews or whatever is I come in at the beginning and I tell you what I'm going to read, like I already did. And then, as I'm reading the books, I check in and tell you what I thought about them and how they all went. Well, on Sunday, I kicked this thing off and I started reading the first book, which is called Patsy. And then I read that book all day Monday, and I thought, okay, Tuesday morning, I was done with Patsy. I had already started the second book, which was Swimming in the Dark. And I was like, okay, I'm going to film Patsy sometime today, and then I'll keep reading Swimming in the Dark. Well, Tuesday afternoon, I started feeling really bad, and it got worse and worse and worse, and I did not sleep very much at all Tuesday night because I was constantly in the bathroom doing everything you could possibly do in the bathroom. And Wednesday, I was still sick Wednesday. But also on top of it, I was so drained. Like, I was just physically tired. So, Wednesday, nothing could happen as far as filming goes. But Wednesday afternoon, I started feeling a lot better. And so I was like, okay, I still don't feel like filming anything. And at this point, because I couldn't do anything but just lay around, I've still been reading. So I finished Patsy. I finished Swimming in the Dark. What was the third dang book called? I finished Noor by Nnedi Okorafor. That was the last one that I read on Wednesday. I finished it Wednesday night. And then Thursday I thought, well, I'll sit down and talk about those 3 books, and then I'll only have one more book to read. And then I was like, I still don't really feel like being on camera, and I need to film like what I'm doing with this bookshelf and stuff behind me that's still not finished, spoiler alert. But I thought, let me just finish the last book that I want to do for this reading vlog, and then I'll just discuss all the books. So it's not really gonna be like a vlog. It's really just gonna be me discussing. I did want to throw in here that my 15-year-old son has decided that he wants to do more recipe cooking. He knows how to cook like basic things, but he wanted to do more recipe cooking. And so he found a recipe for a chicken spaghetti. It's like a chicken spaghetti casserole kind of thing. It's got like ricotta cheese and that kind of stuff in it. Anyway, so I made him take a picture with his chicken spaghetti last night before we ate it. And thankfully, I was feeling so much better. And so I ate with them, and it was really good. And I did not get sick. So I appear to be over the illness. So I'm going to talk about all the books all together as if I'm just doing a wrap up for my NPR reads. I am now done with Tales from Around the World. I did 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. So, for 2019, I read Patsy, a novel. Now, this book is set in both the United States and Jamaica, and it spans a long time period, and there are years that pass just without us seeing anything. It's like the next chapter moves on, and it's been 5 years later, or it's been another year later, or something like that. So you have to get used to that. That's what's going to happen. But at the beginning, it doesn't do that. At the beginning, we are following Patsy. She has a 5-year-old daughter named True. That's not her full name, but that's what she calls her, is True. And her mom. They all live together. And Patsy has a friend who was more than a friend, like her long-lost love, I guess, that is already in the United States. She kind of just disappeared when they were in university. And so, or when she went to university, Patsy didn't. And we find out more information about that and about their relationship. But she's been writing her from the United States, telling her how she can't wait for her to come visit and all this stuff. So Patsy has been saving up money. She's trying to get a visa to get to the United States. The problem is she's not taking her daughter. And it goes back to a ton of like issues or questions of women's autonomy with their body in certain locations. Like, they don't have as many choices as far as like whether or not they're with people, whether they just don't have a lot of choices. If they want to be able to survive and eat, it is just not a lot of freedom in those choices. So she has ended up with a daughter, and the father of the daughter is married and has a family, and she finally goes to him and she's like, look, I'm not asking you for anything. She's 5 years old. I've never asked you anything. You've never hung out with her or anything. Like, she knew who he was, but they didn't like spend time together. And so she's like, I need you to take her because I can't leave her with my mother. Her mother is an incredibly religious fanatic who won't go get a job. She won't do anything because she just says that Jesus will provide whatever they need or God will take care of them. And really what it means is that she neglects her family. So like, we find out all the things that happened when Patsy was a child because of her mother's fanaticism, and just that all comes out later on in the book. But anyway, this is all at the very beginning. Patsy drops her off, or tells her dad, like, you're going to have to take your daughter. I'm going to the States. And she tells her daughter, like, I'll be back. But she tells everybody else, like, I'm not coming back. Her visa is for like 90 days or however long, 6 months maybe. But she has no intention of coming back. And so she gets to America. Her friend picks her up from the airport and she's like, oh, I'm finally going to be who I want to be and who I, have dreamed of being all these years. And then she just finds out that things are not the way her friend told her they were in America, that things are not the way she thought they would be. And she maybe starts regretting some of the decisions that she made. And like I said, years just start passing, and we are getting Patsy's point of view, and we're also getting True's point of view, and even a little bit of Roy, that's True's dad, a little bit of his point of view, and his wife with their kids, and then all of that, all of the extra stuff. We just meet lots of other people. We get to know True's friends as she's growing up. She really wants to play soccer, and that's not a thing that girls do. That's what boys do. And so she just really starts saying, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do, and I want to play soccer. And so we see True kind of coming into who she is and fighting the status quo, where Patsy didn't do that until she was an adult, an older adult. And so both of them have kind of been finding themselves away from each other, and it was really well done, I thought, as far as the dual perspectives go, and the characters were so real. I don't usually like these contemporary books, although I keep having to read quite a lot of them in the NPR challenge. I think NPR editors really like these contemporary books, but I just really liked that we got the 2 points of view from Patsy and True, and we got to see what happens when somebody takes control of their life at a younger age than somebody who felt like they didn't have the opportunity to take control. And all of the characters are flawed. We don't see anybody that makes all good choices or all bad choices. The characterization in this book is phenomenal. So if you need something that is like dual perspective or anything to do with family relationships or anything like that, this book is perfect for that. It takes place, like I said, half in Jamaica and half in the United States. So any of those kind of prompts like that you need that for something that you're reading or something that you just want to read, it was really good, like I said, for the characterization of the writing. Maybe not the genre that I would normally read or something I would normally pick up, but really well done characters. Then I read Swimming in the Dark. Oh, I forgot to say, Patsy and Swimming in the Dark are both LGBTQIA+. They fall under the umbrella. So also, if that is something that you're looking for. In Swimming in the Dark, this one probably is more of like a romance kind of situation. I don't know. Again, it's not a contemporary. It's historical fiction. But it is written as a letter, if that's another thing. It's not necessarily letters back and forth. It is one letter. The whole book is one letter written from Ludwig to, I don't know how to say the other guy's name, but another guy in Poland. And he's writing about them, like what happened when they met and where he was, like all of the background information about Ludwig that you wouldn't have known, of course, if you were just meeting him, because you don't know like where he was before that in his life and what was going on with him before that. And then he also talks about the things that happened as their relationship was developing, as far as like behind the scenes and what he was going through and dealing with, and how both of them, this was set in Poland. Like I said, it's historical fiction. And Poland at the time was having a communist crisis. We'll call it crisis. I know nothing about this time in Polish history. Like I kept thinking, is this real? Did this happen? And I had to go Google some things. So anyway, I mean, it was cool in that sense that I had no idea about this time in Polish history. But he talks about how one of them started rising in the ranks of the Polish government, and the other one was finding himself wanting to be more a part of the rebellious side and wanting to say, no, this is not right. Treating people like this is not right. And doing these things is not the way I want to be and the way I want to live. And so we do find out at the very beginning that the letter he's writing, he's in America and he's writing the letter back to Poland, talking about the things that he had seen. So we know at the very beginning that they're not physically in the location together. We don't know if they're in a relationship still or anything like that as we go further along in the book. But there was not a lot of redeeming qualities to the other guy for me. I almost immediately was wary of him, and I didn't really trust him, and I didn't really like him. So as far as like a love story goes, I was not feeling it in this story at all. And it took me a while to grasp who everybody was and their extended friend groups, and how they were all even kind of interconnected in certain ways. And it just took me a while to get into it. It's not a very long book, and once I figured out who everybody was, it flowed pretty well. And like I said, it's just a letter that he has written to say, like, well, I don't want to give away what he's ultimately trying to say, but it's just a letter kind of explaining more of what was going on when they were together physically in the same location. So I'm not going to say the rest of it, but I do think that if you're looking for anything that has to do with historical stuff, if you're looking for any kind of uprising or that kind of prompts or anything, this totally fits that. I know that not everybody reads books for the prompts, but I know that a lot of times when I'm trying to find a book that fits a certain prompt, it's hard to know, like, does this have anything to do with government? Does this have anything to do with family issues? Like that kind of stuff. So I just like to throw it in there sometimes when I remember, so that if you're watching this and you need a prompt, you'll be like, oh, let me write that down or whatever. So this one was for 2020 Tales from Around the World. Then 2021 Tales from Around the World was Noor by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a sci-fi book, and I every time I read a sci-fi book, I just find myself smiling. Like, I don't know why sci-fi is something that I have avoided for so long, because as soon as I pick up a sci-fi book, I am immediately drawn in and hooked, and I just have to find out what's going to happen next. I don't know what it is about it. I know part of it is the science. Like, I love learning new things and hearing about new things, and this book is set in Nigeria, in what the description calls it, a near future Nigeria. And the main character is A.O. That's her own name that she picked for herself. And she has a lot of non-human parts to her. Like, she doesn't have legs. She has two, not really robotic legs, but kind of, and an arm that is not hers. And then she has what she calls her flesh arm, or her flesh hand. And so she's in the market one day, and these people just start attacking her for being non-human or whatever. And she starts to defend herself, and then it's like her arm kind of takes over, and she straight up kills these people in this market. And then she's like running because she's got to get away. And she was like, I was just living my normal life, going to the market to buy my groceries for the night, and now I'm running for my life. And so the only place she can think to go is out into the desert, where she feels like people will not be able to find her or chase her or whatever. And as she's escaping, she runs into DNA, which is not actually his name, but he goes by DNA. And when he introduces himself to somebody, he does say that his name is deoxyribonucleic acid, which made me laugh so hard because I thought, is his name really that? And so I went back and I was like, oh no, that's not his name. But that's just what he tells somebody the DNA stands for, which I thought was really funny. I don't know. I think that's a little nerd joke that I just find hilarious in sci-fi. But anyway, so she runs into him. He also is running from something. He is being accused of being a terrorist. He is actually a Bedouin herdsman who lives, he's not really a Bedouin, but they think that he is because he lives out there in the middle of the desert, and his group or his community doesn't move around. They pretty much are permanently set up, but the way they have been portrayed to the rest of Nigeria and Africa is that they are traveling terrorists. And so he is running because he and his group went into a village for no reason. I mean, just to go there and buy supplies, and they were immediately attacked. And then all of them fighting back is what was recorded and put up all over the country for everybody to see these terrorists that had attacked this village. And so he was running away and being like, I didn't do that. Like, that's not what we were doing, and that's not who we are. And they kind of ran into each other, and then they make their way through the desert to this like oasis hideout location that all of these people who are trying to live off the grid or outside of the watchful eyes of people where they are. And they have these giant things called Noor, which means light, and they kind of monitor things in the desert and provide stuff that you need in the desert. And that's what they think they're for. That's what the people think that they're for. And this is more like a fighting against the man, you know, or whatever, who Big Brother, whoever that is. And so AO and DNA kind of work together with the people that are hiding out in the desert as well. They're not really hiding. Like, people know that they're out there, but they kind of have their own autonomous place. And so things start to happen out there that lead them to believe maybe they're not as safe and secluded as they thought they were. And so she learns also that maybe something more sinister is going on behind the scenes with her, and how she was created or made the way that she is, and the things that she can do that she didn't know she could do because of what was happening when her mother was pregnant. So that's all I'm going to say about that. It does give a lot away in the description. I saw that. So if you need a sci-fi, it's not very long. African futurism is what Nnedi Okorafor is known for. I do have another book by them that I will be picking up as soon as possible because I just got it for my birthday and I'm so excited, especially based on what I just read in this book. I absolutely loved it. The characters were so great, and the tension was so good, and the plot just unraveled what I thought was done in a really well-paced, really good book. Finally, the last one that I finished was The Return of Faraz Ali. This one is a 2022 book, and as I talked about at the beginning, there's only a few 2022 books that are already in the NPR thing, but I thought, why not go ahead and start reading them because they're in there. So this is the one that I got. I have heard about this. I think the cover looks really cool. And this book was almost too much for me. Like, it was almost too sad and too, I don't know. It was almost too much. There is some trigger warnings for this, by the way. There's probably trigger warnings for a lot of them as far as it goes just a lot of people not having control of what happens to their bodies. But this one specifically, there is rape on page of a very young girl. And so it's kind of told through a flashback, but it's told from the eyes of the rapist who kind of is like, I didn't really know what was happening, whatever. Those are not excuses that I'm wanting to hear. But anyway, that is on there just in case. It's very short. It's very not, it's not drawn out and descriptive, but it's enough to be disturbing. And this book is quite winding in the telling of it. So we have Faraz Ali. He is born into an area of Pakistan that we're going to say is known for prostitution. When you go there, you're going there for gambling and prostitution. The women who live there try to get pregnant with a girl just once, and once they have their girl, they're fine, and then they train that girl, and when she is 11 or 12 years old, they sell her, and then she takes over when the mom needs to retire. So that's how this area works. And Faraz is born into a family in this section of Pakistan. And he is then taken by his father when he is about 4 or 5 years old. His father comes in and just takes him away. He does not know who his mother is. He has flashes of memory of a mother and a sister. He remembers that much. That's all he knows. So we get that perspective at the very beginning. Then we get the perspective of a woman, and we have no idea how she ties in yet to what's going on. Also, we do get the history. Like this, we do find out what year this is, and it's in our world. It's set in our world. So I don't know if it would be considered historical fiction or not, because it goes all the way back to the 1950s, maybe even before that. I'm not sure. And so it, goes through quite a wide span. We do go back in time. It has dual timelines. It has many perspectives. We get the perspective of Faraz's father, who was a prisoner of war back in the past. There is a conflict that happens with Faraz, who gets taken as a prisoner of war at some point in this. Faraz is not actually raised by his father, let me say that. His father has a family already, but he thinks that he can give him a better life than living in this area of Pakistan. So his father takes him and puts him with another family. So the return of Faraz Ali could have many different meanings. He returns a lot in a lot of different ways, but he is ultimately wanting to find out who his mother is. This book is almost split into two halves. The first half is told in a very linear, this is how the story goes fashion, where a little girl, has been murdered in this area, and Faraz is a police officer. And his father calls him and says, I need you to go and cover this up. Well, he pretends like he's going to go cover it up, but he wants to really find out who the murderer was, because he knows this is where he comes from, and he has more empathy with the people that live in this area than the others do. Like, they only want them for what they want them for, and then they don't care about them after that. And so this little girl has been shot twice. She's clearly 11 or 12 years old, and the guy that's with him, the policeman with him, said, well, it could have been suicide. And he said, Faraz said, are you telling me that this girl shot herself twice? I just was like, okay. I mean, people will say the stupidest things when they want to cover things up. But anyway, so Faraz is getting pressured from his dad to end it. However, he wants to find out the truth because he thinks it's some of these rich men who have all come here to pay for this girl's first time. And then things got out of hand and they murdered her. So it starts out in that awful scenario. And the first half of the book is him trying to solve it and kind of realizing that even if he does solve it, nothing's going to happen because the higher ups don't seem to care. Like, they're the ones that are perpetuating this situation for these group of people in this area. And so Then we move to the second half of the book. And in the second half, it is all about Faraz searching for his family. He almost finds them once, then they realize who he is, and they almost find him once. And there's just a lot of movement that happens. And then this is where, just like the first book, Patsy, the years just start to fly by. Like, the whole book probably progresses maybe 10 years in the second half, and probably 3 weeks or 2 weeks in the first half. So the first half moves really slowly, and then the second half just flies by. And we also get flashbacks, like I said, from his dad's point of view as a POW, and learning like what's going on with him and kind of his thought processes for why he wanted Faraz out of there, which is still not great, but at least we understand like why and what he's doing. And then we have Faraz, who can't ever even say like that you are my father, you are my brother and sisters, and he has to see them when he goes to talk to his father, but he can't even say like you're my father and you're my brother, you know, all these things. Although one of the housekeepers said, "You sound just like him." I thought he was talking to himself until I walked in the room and saw that there were 2 of you. So I think it's a not very well kept secret, but still he has to keep the secret. So I just feel bad. Like, nothing worked out the way Faraz wanted it to, and it was disheartening. The topics in this one were just so heavy, and everything just felt bad for me. Like, I mean, for the people especially that lived in that area, I just felt horrible for them the whole time. There was not redeeming qualities. Like, you know, I just wanted somebody to swoop in and be like, and nobody is going to mess with you guys anymore. But I know that's not what happens, and that's probably not what happened. This is probably an actual area and actual things that happened in the 50s to the 80s in Pakistan, wherever we are in the time frame of this book. And so I don't know. It's real, and it's brutal, and I loved the characters. I think they did a great job writing the characters, but the story is just hard. So, which is what you need sometimes. They can't all be fluffy books. I mean, I guess they can if that's all you want to read. But since I want to read more genres, they can't all be fluffy books. Okay. I have talked a really long time about these 4 books, but I really enjoyed them. And hopefully next time I can talk about them one at a time as I read the books and not get sick and just keep reading and not able to do any reviews. So I am going to end this right here as I decide what fluffy book I want to read to relieve some of the pressure from all of these books. And I will check back. Let's see. Leave me some sci-fi recommendations, especially if you've read any of Nnedi Okorafor books. Any recommendations that you think are like those. I'm also reading Project Hail Mary, and I'm not even very far in, and I think it's hilarious. So any other books like that, any sci-fi books, leave those down below, because apparently sci-fi is going to be my new genre. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.